Hello and welcome to another tutorial from CamiPaige Boutique. I'm Brooke Tannehill and I am so excited to bring you my most popular design right now, which is my Summer Sunset Coozie. This cup, well, I guess it's not a cup. This koozie was inspired by all things summer and is the perfect addition for any time you are sipping a summer beverage by the pool or beach. As always, all the products that I use in this tutorial will be listed below, and also check it out to see if you can score some savings with the coupon code. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. This blank is a steel koozie from the Steel Magnolia. I like the slims because they fit the White Claws and the Trulies, and for this customer, that is their drink of choice, so it worked out. I sanded the koozie to start off with, and then I moved into spray painting to set the groundwork for where the glitters would go on the cup. Now, I know this is sped up, but I can't say this enough. Take your time, make sure that you get the paint where you want it, and don't be afraid to go back over it a couple of times to get it the layout that you want. I'm showing you this here, that is what I did, because I don't want you to think that, oh, I spray it once and it's perfect. Oh no, I go back several times to make sure that I get the stripes and the breakdown that I want. So for the yellow, I am using Lemongrass, and it's Rustoleum 2X Paint Primer. And then I went into what was called Real Orange. It's actually really pretty orange, and I liked the color that it gave me for underneath the glitter. And then the pink color that you see is Prickly Pear, and then the purple is Grape. So I know a lot of times people go back and forth about whether it's semi-gloss, matte, gloss. I actually just use whatever I have on hand. You can absolutely make sure that all of the finishes match. Just for when I'm laying the base for my glitter, it doesn't matter as much to me. Here you can see I'm just going back and forth, and I actually like to go vertically, sideways on the cup compared to like what you traditionally do. You can see me doing it right here, and just get the stripes the way I want it. Just tiny bursts, and by doing this motion instead of holding it up the opposite way, I feel like I can have more control over the stripes. So that's the technique that works for me, but absolutely use whatever you feel is more comfortable. I let the spray paint dry in front of a space heater for about 45 minutes to an hour, just to make sure it wasn't tacky and that when I applied my epoxy, we wouldn't have any weird lifting or anything like that. And then I mixed up 30 mLs of a little extra ink epoxy, but you don't need it for this. I think I used less than 1 milliliter. And I just made sure that I had really great coverage around the entire koozie. So that way I could blend my glitters, I could just get the finish that I wanted. So I took my time and got the really even coat. So you want to make sure that you're using an even coat, because otherwise it's going to show through the glitter. It's not as important when you're using the chunky glitters because it's not going to show, but if you were using finer cuts, you definitely want to make sure that everything's evenly coated before you move into the glitter part of this cup. So I started with the yellow part of this cup. If you feel more comfortable, you can absolutely start at the rim. But this is called Highlighter from the Inspired Angels. And I actually like this because it's an opal yellow. I'm sure I'm misclassifying it, but when I use it, that's what it comes off to me. But it's got a lot of different cuts in it. It's got the chunkier cuts, the finer cuts, and I just really like how it popped off of that lemongrass spray paint and gave that vibrancy for summer that I was going for. The next color up is orange, and this is also by the Inspired Angels. It is called Orange Zest, and I just really like this orange color. I had a couple of different options, but I liked this one because it gave a nice blend into the yellow, but it also did enough to stand on its own. So it was a beautiful color. And when I started applying this orange, I started with probably a 1/4 of an inch overlap with the yellow. So I did get that blend between the two colors, but I still got the sharpness of the lines that I was also going for with this koozie. After the orange, I moved into the pink, which was Gem from Create by Firefly. And I just started a 1/2 inch again over the orange to blend the two colors, and then moved into the rest of the stripe on the cup. You will see there that I let it slip a little bit and it got up into the purple, but I'm going to show you how I fix that in just a second. So one of my hacks, and I highly recommend this, is that I keep baby wipes in my craft room. And typically when this happens, what I do is I just take a baby wipe and wipe off the oopsie, as we'll call it here. Make sure that I'm not taking off any of the design that I want left, and then I'll come in and add more epoxy. So here you can just see I'm adding in where I just took off the epoxy and the glitter that I didn't want. Then I'll come in and apply the glitter over the top, and you'll never know the difference. Because this happened, I just applied the purple as normal, and you can see, man, I just love this Everest color. This is Everest from Peach Yellow Glitters. But I just applied the glitter, and then I took a step back, and then I reapplied some of the pink glitter to make sure that I had that blend. Typically, I wouldn't necessarily have to do this step, but because I did take off quite a bit of that epoxy, I just wanted to make sure that I had a blend that I was happy with on this koozie. With any chunky glitter, you'll see me do it here. I come in, and I know a lot of people use parchment paper, and you can definitely do this with a gloved hand. I just kind of come in and pat down the glitter, so that way when I do apply the epoxy in the next steps, it is as smooth as possible, and it's going to give you that great finish. It wouldn't be one of my tutorials if I didn't get myself sealing glitter at least once in the video. So I am using Quick Coat by CC DIY, and I tried to be fancy and use a silicone brush. It just wasn't working for me. So I put a glove on, and I just worked the Quick Coat into the glitter to make sure that everything's sealed in place. And I've also found that this helps to prevent fish eyes or any kind of micro bubbles from the chunkier glitter. And I really like that when I go into my next step of epoxy. So this is something I highly recommend. I have added this step to my process, and I do not regret it at all. So take the time, seal your glitter, and you're gonna be happy in the long run. I let the Quick Coat dry for about 45 minutes to an hour, and then I moved into the next step, which was epoxy. I mixed up 20 mLs of a little extra ink and applied it generously to the cup. Now, I did a thicker coat just because it was a chunky glitter. Then I waited about 3 or 4 hours, and then immediately went in with another 15 milliliters to make sure that I had enough epoxy built up to move into the sanding part of this tumbler. With any chunky glitter, it's just never going to be perfect, so I highly recommend having 2 full coats of epoxy before you do any sanding so you don't remove any color from the glitter. I let the cup cure for probably about 6 hours after the last coat of epoxy, and then I just kind of felt around the cup for any rough spots or super high spots that needed to be kind of accounted for from the chunky glitter. So what I do is, if there's like a super high spot that it's gonna take a lot of sanding or it's just pretty jagged, is I just take my X-Acto knife and just run it along the cup. Just simply cut off the glitter just to give it a smoother surface for when I'm coming in to sand. Because if you don't do that, I have found that when you sand, it can cause divots and uneven surfaces, which just make it harder to get that perfect finish on your cup. I took a 120 grit sanding block, and granted, you could use 80 or 60 depending on how rough your surface is. And I just hit the cup wherever there was some raised spots or items that were just kind of sticking up that weren't giving me that smooth surface. So just moving around and just hitting the cup here and there to make sure that we're getting as smooth of a surface as possible for the decal, and then also that next layer of epoxy. For the rim, because I've found this throughout a bunch of cups that I've done, when I've used chunky glitters, it's pretty rough around the edge. So I got my Dremel out, and this is a 3/8 120 grit black wheel. and I just go around the cup, starting with it flat to knock down all of the rough glitters and get that nice smooth edge around the surface. I then angle the cup and come in with the flap wheel and get a thin rim of stainless steel for the next coat of epoxy to adhere to. So this is super important so your cup doesn't start coming off in flakes, or when you do clean your rim at the end of everything being done, you don't have an area where liquids or anything can get down there, cause mold, and destroy the cup. So that's what I use to clean up the surface. I apologize, I did not record myself getting the decal applied to the cup, but I will link all of the materials I use, so they have 2 different vinyls, down in the description so that you could replicate this if you'd like. Since I use 2 different holographic vinyls, I am sealing it with the CC DIY Quick Coat, just so there's no lifting and that I can get this ready for the coat of epoxy. I mixed up 15 milliliters of epoxy and applied it to this cup. And to get the smooth surface that I wanted and the shine, it did require 2 final coats, but then it was done and this koozie was ready for all of the upcoming beach and pool parties. And there she is. I love the decal, the colors. Everything screams summer, and it's perfect for enjoying any adult beverage by the pool. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe so you can stay up to date for any future tutorials. Again, I love you guys. Thank you. Bye.